So Kathy Kennedy in the IGN interview I watched was asked about Kevin Feige's movie. There was no mention of Taika Waititi's at all. But she did mention that she was asked point blank about Kevin Feige's movie for Star Wars, and she said that is something. And I'm going to butcher the quote a little bit because it was in a video, and I can't pull the video back up and get it word for word. But she said something along the lines of how that kind of came out of media. She said, "I don't want to say fandom, but kind of just fandom." And here's what I think is interesting, because I texted that to Kyle, and then Kyle pointed out that he's like, well, it was in the trades, it's in Variety, it's in Hollywood Reporter. It was coming from very reputable scoop people. And what I think is really interesting is, one, scoop people can get it wrong. They have in the past, they will in the future. They can get it wrong. But what she said is, and this is where I think it's interesting, is she said, Kevin has never approached me with an idea. He's never approached me to do that. I know he's a huge Star Wars fan. We all know he's a huge Star Wars fan, and I would love to talk with him if he has an idea. But he's never approached me with an idea. I, funny enough, believe Kathy Kennedy, because it makes no sense for her to lie in that situation. Because if Kevin had approached her for a movie and she's lying, I don't understand why she would feel the need to lie. If Kevin has approached her with an idea for a movie and was going to produce a movie, and I can tell Kyle's ravagingly looking up the original article for it. I could tell by his demeanor.
I'm so curious. Like, the first article I see says Kevin Feige Star Wars film has been shelved. Like, what are we talking about? You go.
So, but here's what I'm coming from here. I actually believe that this was something that was incorrectly reported. A scooper had a somebody who, when he released it, was incorrect. I think is just what happened, because I don't see why Kathy would lie. Because if the movie is shelved, let's say she is lying and the movie is shelved, why does she need to lie? That I don't understand. Why lie? If the movie shelved, say Kevin had a great idea, he's been spread too thin, which has been reports from Marvel. Marvel has wanted to kind of secure him back, so his movie's been put on the back burner. We've shelved it. Boom, there you go. There's no reason to say, well, we've never actually really talked about it. I'd love to. And to be honest, I believe her, because I think Kathy has been under such fire that every interview I watched with her yesterday felt like she was like, I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to tell everybody straight up what has happened from my mouth, because she has been coy. And I think it's really interesting, because I believe her. I had to go back and rewatch the question being asked and her response, because I wanted to really watch it again. And I believed her. It doesn't even make sense for her to lie. So I think it was a false report. I don't think Kevin Feige was ever actually making a movie. And did it come out of fandom? Abso-freaking-lutely it came out of fandom. I would 100% believe that. People have been talking about how Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers should do a movie since The Winter Soldier. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, according to the Hollywood Reporter on September 25th, 2019, the headline says, Marvel's Kevin Feige developing new movie for Disney. There is a beginning of a paragraph here, as I'm skimming through it, saying Feige had discussed a foray into the Star Wars universe in a late summer meeting with Kennedy and studio co-chairman Alan Horn and Alan Bergman. Now look, maybe it didn't wind up being that he is developing a movie. Maybe the headline's a bit clickbaity, and he just was like, hey, maybe here's some suggestions for Star Wars, but I'm not pitching a movie. I guess that could be something I buy. I could buy that. But I also just have learned over the years that you kind of have to take almost everything in Hollywood coming out of Hollywood with a grain of salt, just because there's so much movement on so many projects and ideas, and people hear different things that you just never know exactly like what is going on. So it could be possible that words got mixed up. That's for sure. But I also think with the amount of movies that Kennedy and Star Wars have announced and then go, "Oh, just kidding, not happening," that I'm not exactly surprised that she would be like, "Oh, that never happened." No, no, Kevin Feige never pitched anything because she doesn't want they don't want more scrutiny for that. So I could just see that's the reason why they're pulling this. And it might also help Marvel fans be more at ease of like, oh, Feige is not getting stretched too thin. He's going to be focusing on Star Wars, Star Wars, focusing on Marvel a lot better moving forward. So there could be stuff at play to that where I could see that going on behind the scenes. But mainly me, I just always am skeptical, especially with Star Wars nowadays, on like what exactly is true and not true. So that's just all the thoughts that I have. I'm not as fully on board with thinking she's being truthful as you are, I guess.
I insanely disagree that she would lie to save face. I don't think she cares anymore. How do you've been dragged through the mud since 2019 or 2017? How you're now suddenly going to be like, let's save face. Let's just lie and you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense to me at this point. I'm skimming through the article here too. I pulled it up, and to be honest, this just sounds like Kevin and Kathy and Alan Horn were all sitting at lunch, and Kevin was like, because they talk later about how knowledgeable sources say that he had an actor in mind if they ever make a movie. And it sounds like maybe he was like, dude, Chris Evans in Star Wars, Kathy, Chris Evans in Star Wars, like saying something like that. And Kathy's like, man, they're all drinking champagne. Wouldn't that be great? That sounds awesome. And Alan Horn's like, you guys should seriously do that. I love money. And they're like, wow, that's really cool or whatever. And then Alan Horn goes in an interview and he's like, I don't know, they sounded pretty great. Like they're really talking about it. And then Kathy's like, we joked that Chris Evans should be in a movie. Like, is she saving face? Maybe. But I just don't see any reason why she would about this. Kevin
I think
Feige's
she's
movie wasn't
hoping.
going to fix Star Wars. He was going to make, if this is true, and he was going to make a
Yeah,
movie that was shelved, he was going to make one movie. He wasn't going to retcon everything. That's another thing.
maybe.
I have seen video after video after video since yesterday of how Star Wars Celebration was horrendous by the toxic fans you and I talked about yesterday, because they were like, The Mandalorian is clearly setting up a tease that they are going to retcon the entire sequel trilogy, and they're going to redo it with Dave Filoni and Kevin Feige taking over and Jon Favreau. Why is that not happening? I hate Star Wars now. And it's like, are you an idiot? Pay attention. Like, there's one thing to read in between the lines. Kyle and I are doing that. It brings fun discussion. It brings all this fun stuff, and it brings fun theorizing, which is fun. But
Mhm.
they were never going to retcon the sequel trilogy, you dummy. Are they going to try to tinker in there a little bit here and there to maybe make a few things make sense that didn't get made, that didn't make sense in Rise of Skywalker? Sure. That sounds great. It's not retconning, it's retooling. God, people are stupid. Anyway, I thought that was just an interesting discussion
For sure.
about about Kathy. I really don't see a reason why she would lie. I want to hear Kevin talk about it. Maybe Kevin comes out and he's like, "Nah, man, we got drunk. We're having a good time." I thought Chris Evans, he's like Rocket Raccoon would make a heck of a Jedi. Team him up
Well,
with
ain't
Yoda.
that the truth? To be clear, I'm referring to trying to save face to the brand, not just necessarily for her. She has her money. She doesn't care. She'll be a
The brand
producer
of
somewhere
Star
else if
Wars
she
doesn't need to
leaves
be
Star
safe
Wars.
faced. It's been
Well,
divided since the 70s. In the
since the
80s.
70s.
Oh, there are news articles. You can find them if you Google it. There are news articles that talk of like of reviews from old newspaper clippings about how people hated Return or Empire Strikes Back because it didn't make
Oh, I've
sense.
heard about that. Yeah.